Anyone read session's name? We have to install Vite every time you are creating a new application. Yes. So basically today we'll cover something that is called useRef. Take now again, it's a very small hook, nothing big, but all it does is it helps you do a specific thing. Again, I'll slowly bring that out ki what that thing is, and you guys will tell me ki yes, this is an underlying issue and we need to address it, and then I'll introduce you to useRef. Sounds good? Sounds good. Take it. So let's do one thing. Let's first off start with creating an application, Vite application, right? So again, help me with it. How do we create a Vite application? How do we create an application? Let's say this is S2 D2, right? Let me just visit there. So S2 D2, and this may be. Let's keep a notes.md file, maybe in case we might need it. So what is this mock evaluation one? It will be, again, we're testing something with respect to platform itself. Basically, once you submit now, you can see your deployed link there itself. Okay, how your code will look when it's deployed. So just testing that feature, it will be a simple assignment and you will get around 1.5 hours to solve it. So you can give that priority over assignments. Other assignments, इसको आज के लिए priority देना. npm create Vite @latest. Yes. So what should be the command, guys? First command, npm create Vite @latest. Yes, no, anything? Yes. Okay. So enter. Huh. All right. So let it build the application. Then we'll see what we can do. Anyone tried CRA, create React app? किसी ने try किया था from React's official documentation? Try करना है. Tell me कि does it takes more time than this or similar है कुछ? Not yet. अच्छा, try करना. Right? Project name uh, S2T2. Let's go with that. Package name, we don't need anything for now, and we'll go with React. Yes. Okay. React with what? JavaScript. All right, let's go. So first step is done. We have our application over here, right? And here are all the stuff that we need, index.html and all. But still, this needs some fix. Abhi kya hai? For now, we'll have to visit this directory. So I'll have to do s2d2. Yes, no such file exists. Okay, I think it attached something from there on it. So we should have named it better. That's on us. So let's name it as test, right? So cd test, right? Let's clear it. So the second step will be npm install whatever packages that Vite has given us. Let's quickly install them. It's either I or install, whatever you want to go with. Let's go with npm because it's shorter. All right. So while this is being done, again, I hope these things are clear ki how things are running, right? And here is your dev script जो कि आप run करते हो. So basically when you write dev, you go with Vite, right? So basically वो Vite application run करता है. So again, given that this is dev, I mean, you can change this also. This is based on you. But for now, let's go with dev itself. So if I do npm run dev, my application should start, right? And if I click over here, I'll get my application over here, pre-built. Clear? This was how we were building an application, right? All right. So far, how much time have we spent in with React overall, not just Vite one, overall? कितने दिन हो गए पढ़ते पढ़ते? One nahi. I'm asking about how many days have we spent with React. 9, 7. Okay. 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 So let's say if I again visit here in SRC, I'll have app.jsx. This is the file which is the starting point, right? यहाँ से सब कुछ start होगा. Yes. Yes. So can I clean this up and I'll get rid of everything that is present inside? So let's do that. Let's do that. Let's clean this up. Then do we need app.css में anything? We can clean that up too. Do we need anything in index.css? No. So we can clean that up too. Now in app.jsx, let's say, let's take a classical example. Okay, let's say I have an input box over here, right? And I have a button, right? And it basically says go or something, right? So let's not think in terms of React. Let's think in terms of normal HTML and CSS and JS, which we did in previous unit. If I have to click on this button, and then by default, when I click on this button, the focus goes on this input tag. How can we do that in not React, but overall HTML, CSS, JS overall? Is that something that can be done? Label. Mm, okay. Label. Not exactly. First thing first, if I click on this, no, by default, I should have this focus over this input. Props ref, okay, ठीक है. Again, let's deal about it later. अभी के लिए HTML, CSS, JS में कैसे करोगे? So, do you guys have checked out a property that is called props? Props बोल रहा हूँ. Focus. Check out MDN and tell me where this attribute is applied. Focus quickly. Check in MDN and quickly tell me. Everyone, search for focus with respect to HTML and tell me where is it applied. Focus method sets focus on specified element if it can be focused. ठीक है. So basically it's a method, and where can we get it from? Window, document, where? That was the main question that I was asking. All right. So you're doing HTML element dot focus. So basically we could have done something like this: document dot document dot fix it. Let me then fix this also. We could have done document dot get element by ID, right? By ID, and let's say that ID was input, and then I could have done focus and this. So will this have focused on that input? Is that the case that you're telling me? Yes. Okay, you might have seen this feature in websites also. Okay, if you click on this button, you'll be focused in here. You can type, and then you can again press it, and you can just go. Right. So in normal HTML, yes, we can do that. We can basically do document dot let's say I'm just writing again a kind of a pseudocode. So basically on click, or we have added an event which was click, and over here in a function we did something like this, right? So पहले button click किया, and inside that we did something like this. So this could have done the job for us. Yes. So what do we need for doing this overall? Do we need access to that specific element? Yes or no? Yes. How can you do it over here? How can I get access to this input tag? Let's say I have a function over here, right? Let's say we have const handle click function, right? And what this handle click function does, it basically gets triggered whenever this function is being called, handle click. So do you think a normal HTML way will work here? Can I do document.get element by ID or something by giving this input ID? No? All right. So what should we do? What should we do? So basically, this is where your use ref hook comes in play, right? So there's a hook which is called use ref, right? ये क्या करता है? It's used to reference a specific element. Makes sense? The name makes sense कि useRef क्या करता होगा? Maybe it references a specific element, right? So how do we define this? We just go and write const. Let's say कि um, input reference, right? We are creating a variable like this, and then we'll have to use that hook, right? Which is use ref. So again, similar to use state, it will be imported from React. Use ref, right? Now you'll get this use ref, and by default, you will have to give it some initial value, right? So let's say by default, we are keeping just a false value. We are just keeping a null. Right? So let's do one thing. Let's just console this input reference and let's see what we're getting. Right? Input reference. Let's just console it and let's see what we're getting. So if I go and check my console over here, let me just clear it and let me just refresh it. All right. Now, if I click on button, I'm getting an object which says current null. All right. If I click on it again, so I'm getting an object which has a property of current which has currently null in it. So basically, can we guess that this object basically holding this value inside a current key? Makes sense? Makes sense. So it will also make sense if I do something like this, dot current equals to 2, what might happen? If I click on go, if I click on go, what should happen? It will get updated. Current की value 2 हो रही है. Current की value 2 हो रही है. Right? So I keep on clicking over it. You'll see it gets updated. Right? Similarly, what we can do is we can access this input from over here, right? So input को access करने के लिए you'll have to give reference inside that input also. So input tags will have a attribute which will be called as ref, right? कि किसको आपको reference देना है. So we have created a variable input ref which has this use ref in it. So what we can do, we can give this a value of this initial reference. Right? So now abhi ke liye, we don't need to do these two things. Let's just comment these out and let's refresh. All right. So now over here, if I do input reference, right? Let's just uncomment console. Let's see what we're printing. Right? So if we click on go, what are we getting inside current? We're getting reference to this input tag. We're getting the reference, right? So similarly, what we used to do over here, get element by ID input, and then we get the reference of that element. In React, you'll have to go about doing like this, right? So now simply, once we have access to that specific element, can I do input reference dot focus? So in this case, if I click on this button, I'm going to refer this specific input and I'm going to focus over it. Yes, makes sense. Makes sense. So if I click over it, nothing's happening. And let's see there, what does it say? Type error input reference dot focus is not a function. So it says ki input reference dot focus is not a function. Does that make sense? Error sense banata hai? Even that we saw the input reference refer to input box. Makes sense or not? Okay, before we move forward, dot focus method expects to be attached with what? किसके साथ attach होना चाहता है? To a tag that is being referred, HTML element that is being referred. Currently, input reference is printing an object with current as input in it. So are we using this focus on that input? No, how can we do that then? How can we do that? Dot input or dot current. This input reference is equivalent to this thing. Should I access dot current in it? Now this might work. So if I click on go, you can see that we are focusing over that input box. Clear? Clear? All right. So now by using useRef hook, can we start doing this? If you want to focus or you want to accept a particular element and you want to do something in it, right? You want to attach an event on it or something. So you can do this by doing or using useRef, right? Clear any doubts in useRef? I mean, it's kind of a first use case only. There are few more use cases, but it's not clear. This is kind of main use case. Everyone, this is clear? Yes. If yes, then I have a small question for you guys. Not understood. Okay. Okay. Which part did you not understood? Why using? Right. So again, I'm going to repeat it once more quickly. So if I click on this button, I want a feature like this wherein whenever I click on this button, that input gets focused on. So let's say if I click on this button, after that I can start typing rather than doing like this. Right? So in this case, what should happen in usual HTML is that we are going to use an inbuilt method which is called dot focus. Yes. Yes. So now once we want to use an event like this dot focus can only be attached with a HTML element, which usually we do by accessing get element by ID or any way of basically accessing that particular element. But in React, this won't work. You won't be able to do get element by ID. So in that case, what we do, we use a hook which is called useRef, and it's used to reference an element or a specific element, whatever you want to say. You can give it a by default value. What we have given is null. It doesn't matter if you're accessing an element, what value is there, right? And we have just given this input as a reference in that tag that we want to access, right? So we're going to access this input tag and we're going to give it a reference. So I have done that. And what if I console this input reference, okay, what we are printing with that, if I click on go, so you'll get an object in that, right? Ref is an attribute, yes. You'll get an object in that format wherein inside this current, the value is being stored, right? So if you use this attribute, the value that will be stored inside this current will be the tag, right? So input reference dot current is referencing to this tag itself. And then inside this tag, we have done dot focus. So basically, whenever we're clicking on this button, we're focusing over this tag. That's the only thing that we did. I'll be clear why we're using it. To make a reference. That's it. Because usual stuff won't work here. All right. So now that's clear. I want a small question with you guys. Have you ever visited or have you ever been redirected to a web page where is it not possible by using other hooks? I mean, not this simply. So if you visit a platform, let's say there is an input tag over here, and by default, without even clicking a button, as soon as the page loads, you are focused input box only. So जैसे ये page load हुआ ना, I'm by default focused on this page. Have you ever seen something like that? OTP, yes, OTP में होता है. When you are redirected from your payment gateway and OTP आता है, तो yeah, of course, you are by default directed towards that. Anywhere else? Password reset and all. Yeah, so usually you don't get this feature more often than वो जो usual feature होता है जहाँ पे if a page loads you get the focus here. So how would we do that? I mean, of course, Now that we know कि we can refer to that specific element, हमें reference तो मिल जाएगा. But how will we do कि as soon as the page loads, we are gonna reference this. Sounds like something that we have done in previous session. As soon as page loads, that is, as soon as the component mounts. Use effect. Remember use effect with the empty dependency array. Try it. Try doing or achieving that thing wherein if I refresh the page, I'll be focused on this end. But try everyone from your end. Anyone able to achieve that? Very good, Abhishek. Very good. I mean, just make sense with the statement कि as soon as the page loads, that means your component has to mount. That means use effect has to run just once. And in that case, you want to do this focus thing. All right, let's see. Let's see. So basically, it's simple. Nothing you have to do majorly. You can just remove everything. Whenever the page loads, how can I run a piece of code? Simple. I'll have to use effect, right? So will this function run as whatever, let's say we have a console over here, right? Console.log hello world. So as soon as this page re-renders, we're gonna print this hello world. That makes sense to everyone, right? Right? Okay. So once I run this, I wanna focus over this. So isn't that simple? All you have to do is input reference is already defined, input is already defined. You can just access input reference, you can access the current value and just focus over it. Right? So if I refresh, now whenever I visit this page, by default it will be focused. If I refresh again, you'll see that I can just start typing as soon as I refresh the page without going anywhere. Clear? Clear? So this is how you could have done that. All right. So now, if you want to trigger an event or something, by default, whenever the page loads, you can now go about using useRef with it. Clear? Clear? So while discussing useRef, what's the one property that we discussed? Can be used to refer a specific element. right? There's also a second property that is usually discussed with useRef, and that is it can be used to persist data under multiple re-renders. What might this mean? इसका मतलब क्या होगा? What might this mean? It persists data under multiple re-renders, not refreshes, re-renders. It will not reset the data state. All right. ठीक है. So let's discuss more about this. Let's clean this up. एक काम करते हैं. Let's just take this entire code and यहाँ पे let's just return something. We can create a separate component for it. So in SRC, let's create a component folder. And over here, we can just say as, not this, let's say as ref example, right? And this will be JS6. And we can go const ref example. And we were returning. We have already taken the food, so let's just paste it. Okay, this you can later on refer. For now, let's use render ref.jsx, right? So over here we can create a const, right? And render ref, let's name it, and over here. So I want to just create a basic counter, right? I'm just going to create a basic counter. We need a use state for it, right? Let's just first return a dummy. We'll return a dummy. We'll need a use state for a counter, right? So let count comma counter set count equals to use state, right? And by default, I'm going to keep it at 0. Then again, we'll need certain stuff. So we'll need a button, right? And this will be decrement. Then we'll need h2, and this will keep as the count. And we'll need a button again, and this will be increment. Let's just attach it to our app.jsx. So over here, let's have render ref function, right? So I think we named it something else. Ref render, right? And we can update this also. So render ref, and we'll have to import it. So let's import this function. Import. Have we exported anything? No, to export करना पड़ेगा. All right, we have exported render ref, and let's import it. So that was named or default export? Named. So we'll have to do something like this from render ref, and you'll have your basic setup. Now let's go back over here. Let's attach that. So let's say on click, and what I want to do on click is I want to run. Let's run. Should we run handle click? Chalo, let's run handle click. Let's do it a bit different. Let's run handle click, and over here we're gonna pass a minus, and over here again the same thing on click. This will be handle click, and over here we are gonna send a plus, right? So let's create a function handle click, and this is gonna accept a value, and we can check if value यहाँ पे क्या करते हैं, let's just send in empty string. So by default value will be negative. So if value is positive, what we can do, we can set count, and this will be count +1. Else we can set count, and this will be count -1. Make sense? Make sense? Right? So we can increment and we can decrement. ये clear है? ये clear है? All right. So now if I write a console.log of count over here, right? Whenever I click on this button, what should I be getting? a different updated value. Different updated value. That makes sense. Based on truthy or falsy value. Yes. So basically empty strings are falsy value, right? Whenever it's empty string, we are entering this. That's right. So let's say if for some reason this component was to re-render. Now you guys tell me how can I re-render this component for some reason? Re-render कैसे करें? State change. Okay. Can we keep a state independent of this count? जो कि मतलब count के change पे नहीं हो रहा है. Any other change is happening. Think about it. Can we attach something which can make the state change? We have learned about use state. We have learned about use effect. Now even useRef. So think about this. Let's say if I go and write use effect, right? And यहाँ पे मैं क्या करता हूँ? I'm just gonna do a console.log of count, and let's give it a value of whenever the count changes. Right? So let's clear it. Let's refresh it. Right? Let's remove this console.log for now. So if I refresh it again, if I click on increment, I'm getting that particular value. And use effect changes. Let's have a toggle over here also. Toggle set toggle equals to use state. Let's keep it as false. And let's have a button. And this will basically toggle. Right? So यहाँ पे let's have a on click. And whenever that happens, what we want to do, we want to set a toggle to whatever toggle was initially. Right? So in this case, we are toggling stuff. Right? Toggle भी हो रहा है. How will I know कि it's working? Okay, so we can apply that over here. Right? If we can say that by default it's false, right? So toggle by default will keep it as light. By default, let's keep it as dark. Right? We'll get that. Yeah, basically it's toggling. So now if I give a reference to this use effect again multiple dependency wali baat ho rahi hai because we haven't discussed it yesterday. So quickly, if I put the toggle over here again, so whenever I toggle, will my will my component re-render? Yes, yes. So if I increment it and then click on dark, right? So my component is re-rendering. Clear? So anyone tried search parameters with it? Search parameter किसी ने try किया था? So basically, this is how you can deal with multiple different dependency inside a dependency array. So I hope you guys tried this. किसी ने try किया था dependency array? Done. All right. So over here, what we can do, we can also use useRef, right? So why would we need to use useRef? Because it can persist data over multiple different re-renders also. So let's say if I define count, or let's say we can say ref count or something. Ref count, right? So over here, let's define useRef. Let's define useRef, and let's say similar to this, it starts from 0 only. Right? But rather than directly updating the state using this count, what we can do, we can update the ref count also. Right? So in that case, what will happen? Let's say we visit another component and then get back. So in that case, क्या होगा? ये पूरा component render out हो जाएगा. And a new component will come over. Let's say we are toggling stuff. है ना? Is getting the question? Yes. Yes, wasn't very convincing. So let's say यहाँ पे we define let's have a button over here. एक button रखते हैं. This is change component, right? And what this change component does, what this change component button does, it basically let flag set flag equals to use state, and by default let's keep it as false. False, and we can say that on click again, just basic toggling, nothing else. We can say that set flag will be not equals to original flag, right? And whenever that happens, what we want to do over here, we want to show a div, and in this div we'll have a specific code, right? Now we'll say कि if our flag, अगर flag true है, तो I want to show what is this component named? It's named refx. Let's export this. Export this. So let's say I want to show ref x wala, right? Else I want to show this particular component. So that works. I can change based on different component. Might be doing something wrong. Take a second. Let me just zoom it out a bit. All right. So what's the error? Let's read it. Refresh. Yeah. So if I change component, we are getting some error. useRef is not defined. All right. This is fine. And useRef is not defined. So यहाँ पे let's import useRef. So we'll import useRef from, where should be imported from? Small or capital React? React, right? Okay, a bit should work. If I change the component, use effect is not defined. Okay, अच्छा हमने शायद copy paste किया था, maybe that might be the case. Anyways, use हो गया और कुछ तो नहीं. I don't think so. So yeah, this works. All right, so let's refresh it back. Let's get it smaller. All right, so if I change the component, let's say यहाँ पे if I increment it, then change the component, change it back. अभी ये नहीं see कि this is getting resetted. Reset हो रहा है. I mean that only makes sense कि function calls different हो रहे हैं, तो of course everything is gonna run from line one once that function is called. Right? So what if I go over here, make ref count define करता हूँ, and I'm not gonna do anything. All I'm gonna do is जब हम set count count plus one कर, what I want to do उस particular case पे I want to do ref count, and इसमें I want to do current equals to, or we can say plus equals to. Similarly, let's do the same thing for else condition also. यहाँ पे minus करते हैं. ठीक. And once we have done that, let's print this ref count. Ref count. और कहीं पे तो हम console नहीं कर रहे हैं ना. Let's remove this console. Right. So if I refresh it again, by default we are getting this current object as 0. Right. Let's have this count also, but let's have it here. So console.log. Right. So again, let's refresh it. You'll have a current value. You'll have a 0. Right. If I increment it, current value is 1. This is 1. Increment it again. Current value is 2. This is 2. Let's change the components. Let's go back to this component, and again, you have a 0 over here, but current is also reset. Right. So we'll have to do one thing. Ref count dot current we are updating. Let's do one thing. Let's update this with that. So let's say इसकी value हम कर देते हैं ref count dot current. Take similarly, let's do ref count dot current again. 8. ठीक है. So in this case, if I increment, okay, we don't need use effect over here. It's not doing anything. Let's change the component. Let's go back. Increment. Change the component. Let's go back. I mean, it should have persisted the value, but I think जब हम component change कर रहे हैं, we are kind of doing a hard reset over here. Use state की value by default 0. Ref count is also getting set back to 0. Might be missing something. Return 0, use state 0. No, that's fine because अगर हम separately we are including a useRef, right? So this should persist the data. Wait, let me check once again. If we are changing the component, of course we are not re-rendering the component, we are rebuilding that component. Okay. So I'll have to check this out then. We can use drilling from app.jsx. Drilling. But how will drilling help? Again, it's a good example, but मैं थोड़ा जानना चाहूँगी, how do you think drilling will help? Because the thing that, yeah, I'm not sure what is going wrong with this, but the thing is that your use ref now, it stores the reference of that specific variable or whatever value that you have given across different re-renders, right? Cleanup function like in use effect. Yeah, that would be fine, but why it doesn't really make sense to do that. Okay, कोई नहीं I mean, let's say if I want to re-render this component, how can I re-render it without like going for state or anything? Any idea? Anyone tried? मतलब just basic re-rendering. Use effect मत बोलना. If you just want to do a basic re-render. Because over here now, we're not exactly doing re-render, we are rebuilding that entire component. Right, so might not make exact sense. Chalo koi nahi. We'll come back to this example once again. I'll have to check this out. Why we're not working or anything. Anyways, setting the yeah. Let's get back to this further. Okay, now we'll see what is going on. But basically, what useRef does, like primary purpose is to reference to a specific element. Secondary purpose is to persist data across re-renders, but here we might be making some mistake. And, we are setting the value back. Current +1. So this one, that's fine. But you might be doing some mistake. All right, I'll check this up and tell you guys once more in maybe tomorrow's session. ठीक है, इस वाले एग्जांपल में फिर से आते हैं. ठीक. All right, चलो fine. So and this example correctly, we try in the end. Yeah, the point was कि the ref was supposed to store that, but it's not. I mean, I'm kind of confused here कि यहाँ पे why is the ref not storing? I of course might be missing something, right? What I want to do here is I want to re-render the component, right? But once we are changing the component, there is a possibility that rather than re-rendering the component, we are rebuilding it entirely. Right? That can be an issue. I'll get back on this example too. चलो fine. तो anyways, primary purpose is clear for useRef कि what you can do with it. Primary purpose is clear what you can do with it, right? You can reference a specific element. Now, storing data in between your re-renders, we'll have to discuss that. I mean, local storage can be easily done, but I wanted to do it directly with ref only. So, ठीक है, we'll look into that later on. चलो, कोई नहीं. So, can we use switch statement? Yeah, if you want, you can. If you want, you can. Like, हाँ, that can be the case. कि let's say if you want to update the value while not चलो let's take this up then. So basically, it's usually said कि useRef when you use, right, this reference, whenever the reference changes, what happens by default use state में क्या होता है? Use state में क्या होता है कि whenever the state changes, the component re-renders. That's for sure. Right, this is for sure. When you mentioned switch statement, that came in my mind कि yeah, we can do that. It re-renders, right? Guys, whenever use state का एक state change होता है, so there's a possibility we might need something which won't change whenever a render happens, right? Or vice versa, what I can say is if we change this particular value, I don't want to re-render, right? Don't want to re-render. So that you can do with this. So basically, if I don't do set count over here, right? Set count नहीं करते हैं, we can just do ref count. If we just do ref count. So in this case, what will happen if I console.log ref count यहाँ पे? You'll see कि if I click on this increment and decrement, right? Let's refresh. Let's refresh. And yeah, so if I click on this increment, let's take this console, let's put it here. If I increment or decrement stuff, these current values are increasing, right? But they are not triggering any re-render, right? Are they triggering any re-renders? No. How can we understand that? We can use a use effect, right? But use effect then again. चलो कोई नहीं. I mean, whenever like the point was again कि whenever you update this ref, it basically doesn't triggers a re-render, and that's why it was supposed to store value across the re-renders. But again, the example might be flawed. कोई नहीं, I'll get back to this. So let's get to create that application that we were discussing. कि we'll create an application and overall जो भी हमने किया है, we'll accumulate it. We'll accumulate till useRef का first example. Second वाला we'll discuss about it later on. चलेगा? Alright. चलो. So what I had in mind is कि maybe we can create a to-do application with your CRUD, but this time using use effect and all. Right? So shall we do that? Okay. So let's have a to-do application, right? And again, we'll do Vite in it. So in the terminal, it's close the old one. And over here, let's visit to-do sprint over CP. And over here, we'll do npm create Vite at the latest, right? We'll do this. Yeah. So while this application is being created, let's quickly discuss what we want to do. So basically, we'll go and we'll create a DB in Firebase, right? Wherein we'll be able to add to-dos and all, right? But primary focus abhi ke liye kahan pe hai? To show it on UI, because UI ka experience we haven't done that much with React, not at least with the new way of doing it. So let's say ki if this is the first page that user is visiting, right? First of all, of course, we'll give them a form to create a to-do in here, right? उनके लिए they can create a to-do over here, and then we'll show that to-do out here, right? Here you can have two views, right? By default, view will be that will show three separate columns, right? Three separate columns, three separate columns, and in columns we can show the to-dos based on what priority they were given. So let's say if we had a low priority to do, so we can show it over here. If we have like medium priority, we can show it over here. And if we have high priority, we can show it over here. Right? So this makes sense कि how we could have achieved this. Again, वो थोड़ा सा discuss करते हैं. So over here, for now, first thing first, in app we'll need two component. First component will be to take the data from here, and second component will be to show that data from here. Right? So yeah, let's go ahead and do that real quick. So let's get back over here. And let's go to React, and this will be JavaScript. Let's do npm I. CD. This will be inside to do. What do we have? Vite project. So this will be Vite project. We'll do npm I. Let it be. Right, is it done? All right, it's done. So we can clear it. We can run the devs and we can open it. Right. Again, let's just do the quick setup. Let's just remove app.jsx, whatever we have over there. So we'll just remove that entire thing. We'll close it. And again, app.css, maybe we don't need anything. We'll do our own CSS if needed, and we'll remove all this. Right. So now over here in SRC, let's have those two components. Right. First thing first, we'll need a form component. Right. So form.jsx. Over here, let's have the form component. So let's say form data, and this will be now form may return. And over here, let's have we can have form. Let's have form. And once this form submits on submit, we want to call a handle submit function, right? So let's have a const handle submit function over here also. Or it does nothing, just runs whenever we are submitting. So now in here we'll have an input tag, right? And we'll have a select tag. This will input tag will have a placeholder that will be to do title, right? And select tag will have basically those three options of priority, right? So we can have an option. The first one just to show keep priority, and furthermore options will have high, will have medium, and will have the option of low priority. Right, so we'll have a value over here also, and this value will be empty. This value will be high, and value medium, and the value will be look for this. And finally, we'll have input, and this will be just to submit it, right? So type, we'll give it as, all right, let's append it. So in our app.jsx, let's append this form. So let's have the form data over here. All right, so let's refresh the page. Form data, we haven't exported it. All right, so form.jsx, let's export it inside app.jsx and import form data from form. All right, so yeah, we have that particular form that we needed. Now, one more thing, let's say if you wanna do CSS with this form, so everything is getting accumulated inside app.jsx. So if you go and write app.css में CSS, of course, it will be applied to these forms, right? But you can even have your separate like CSS also. So let's say we have a styles करके folder, right? And in this folder, I have written styles for form. So let's say form.css. So over here, I can do all the styling based on the form, right? So let's say if I'm saying I'm just gonna pick the tag and whatever inputs there are, like let's say form, I can say display as grid, and grid template columns will be 1, or let's say repeat 1, 1 fraction. So matlab, in this case wherein we are repeating 1, 1 fraction, we'll do everything in same line, kind of a column format, right? But this form CSS isn't applicable in this application currently, right? So what we'll do, we'll have to import that particular CSS over here. So we'll do import, and we'll say, what is this CSS? It's form, right? We'll have to first go dot, we are in form, we'll have to do dot slash, and we'll visit styles, and we'll do another slash, and we'll get form dot CSS, right? So is the CSS now applied? Right? So you can create individual CSS for individual components, and you can just import that CSS inside this particular component too. This is one way of doing CSS, right? So now let's go over there and let's give it a width, let's say 50%, and then we can give it a margin over here after a gap, let's say 20 pixels gap. We'll give a margin, and that will be auto, right? So by default, this will be in the middle, right? Then after that, we can do form के अंदर जितने भी input है, or we can do descendant also, that's fine. We can say that they'll have a padding of 10 pixel. So by default, everything will get a padding over there. Similarly, again, let's say if I want to do padding 10 pixel, not just for this input and button, but for the select tags. Button or input में क्यों हुआ? Because those were both of them were input tags, right? So yeah, we can just go with this, and we'll get padding over here. Tick, and let's give this form padding also. So padding, let's say 20 pixel top, 30 pixel left and right, and we can say that this will have background color, and that will be something. Right, we'll have that. And over here now in the bottom, you wanna show another set of data where you're doing all that stuff. Right. The first thing first, let's fix the form itself. Whenever this form is submitted, can I catch the event directly here? Yes, we can. And over here, I can do e.prevent default. Works. This works, right? And what I can do is I can just accept all the values over here, or I can do a use state also, right? So given that we can just directly pick the values, let's do that. So let obj equals to, we'll have title as we can say e dot target 0 dot value, and similarly we can get select tag also. So let's say priority, and this will be e dot target 1 dot value. So by doing this, will we be getting the values from our form? If I do obj, values will be getting. So if I open the console, clear it, we fill some values, parity, and submit it, we'll get that particular value, right? The next step will be that we go, I mean, we can do this with our usual input tags also, yes or no? Like use state. So you can do that, that's fine. Right? Acha. Abhi, what I want to do is I want to send this object in your API, right? So let's say we are just using our usual Firebase, right? So let's say Firebase use kar rahe hain. Let's open it. Let's go to console. And let's say we are using this demo only, right? And over here inside our real-time DB, I go and attach one more. I'll go and attach one more endpoint, and this will be to-dos, right? So this is one more endpoint that we have, to-dos, right? So let's say if I copy this URL and if I get back in my application, so let's say let URL equals to, this is the URL, right? So if I have to access that to-do specifically, will I have to do to-dos.json also, right? तो Firebase में ये करना पड़ेगा. All right, back over here. Now to post it, two ways of doing it. You can do it with the usual fetch, but given that we have learned Axios, shall we do it with that? Axios के साथ करें. The first thing first, we'll have to install Axios. We'll have to install Axios. Is it to do? Okay. So now inside this to do, inside the Vite application that we have, what we want to do, we want to install our Axios. So let's do npm i Axios. So let's say that once Axios is installed, we'll have to import that Axios in our separate component that we're using, right? So let it import, let it install, and then we can import it. So yeah, it's installed. Now let's go back over here, and first thing first, we'll have to import it. We'll import, is it like default import or named import? Default. So Axios from, yes, and this will be Axios, right? So now this Axios object will be available to us. Simply what we can do, we can just do Axios dot post or small में everything. Post, and over here we'll provide the URL and we'll send whatever object we have to send. We don't have to convert it or anything, right? And then let's do a dot then, and over here we can say alert, we can alert data saved in Firebase. Right? So now again, if I go and dot catch, right? So we'll attach a dot catch error, and we'll do console.log error over here. All right. So let's say now we can start with, let's say to do one, priority will be medium, and if I submit it, it will say data is saved in Firebase. Let's go and check Firebase out. So in Firebase, yes, we have saved that data with title and whatever priority we have given to it. Works. Works. Now, what should be the next step? To show this data on UI. Achha, currently, if I wanna reset this, how can I do that? I mean, initially what we did, we used use effect. Abhi, I wanna reset it. How can I do that? e dot target dot value equals to empty. Okay. Anything else? Chalo, let's do that. So e dot target and 0 dot value equals to empty. Similarly, e dot target 1 dot value equals to empty. So let's say I'm sending 2 to 2 with, let's say, low priority, submit. So in this case, what happened? We saved it in Firebase. Let's click on OK and everything is getting cleaned up. Clear? तो maybe थोड़ा time लगा हो शायद Firebase से उसको बात करने में. That's why alert came a bit later. So this is clear, right? How we are saving the data. Now that we are done with form data, next step will be to show that data on UI. Right? So let's create another thing. Let's call it show data.jsx, and over here, let's create const and एक second. Yeah. So we can have const and this will be show data, right? And over here, we'll do all this stuff. So now there's a possibility that we might need that data not just in show data somewhere else, right? So what do you recommend ki we should do get data something that can be used in multiple different components in a child component, or let's do it in the Apex parent component, right? So I would rather do it here itself. So let's say we have const, we have data, comma set data, and we'll do a use state on it. And this will be by default an array or object. An object, right? And over here, again, we'll have to import xuse also. So we'll import xuse from your xuse, right? And we'll do xuse dot get, right? And we'll provide the URL. So it was in form.jsx. So let's get this URL. Let's get this URL. And over here, we're in after this. So let's paste this URL also over here. And we can do get from this URL. Right? But again, is this not a side effect? Is this not a side effect? The side effect should happen in use effect. So let's pick use effect, right? Let's get use effect in our application. And over here, let's write the side effect in here. Now we'll have an empty dependency array. So it's just gonna load once your entire page loads, right? And then we can do a dot then, and over here, we can get that response, and we can just simply do a console.log of res.data, and we'll be printing that specific data, right? So again, if I go on console and let's just refresh and let's just load the component, nothing much. I just load the component. So we should be getting the data. Clear? So data we are retrieving. Any doubts still here how we are retrieving the data? No. Second step will be simple. Just call show data function, right? And again, I think we haven't imported or exported it. So let's export this. Let's just return h2 hello with that. And let's get back in our app.jsx. Over here, what we'll do, we'll have to set data with res.data, right? And then we can send the data over here, right? So we can prop drill, and we'll get the data. All right. So now that we have done that, inside your show data, if I go and do or get this data, and if I do console.log of this data, I should be printing this data in here also, right? So यहाँ पे let's remove this console. remove this console. Import show data. Oh yeah. Import show data from show data. All right. So that's there. Let's refresh it. So by default हमें क्या मिल रहा है हमारे object में we are getting that specific element. Right? So inside show data, we have shared the data. Now the next step will be just to map over that data. Right? We have to send function in form data also to call again the function. हाँ, उसके बारे में थोड़ी देर में we'll discuss. Clear? तो यहाँ तक is it clear to everyone? Firebase from origin has been logged by. It doesn't. So for that case, install this extension. You can just write course Chrome extension. You'll get it. Enable it. That's it. Right? Also, it will be todo.json, right? The URL. It won't be just directly to do, it will be todo.json. Okay, so till here, I hope there's no doubt we haven't done anything new, just basic stuff that we usually do. Right? Any doubts still here, guys? No? So again, you guys are asking for a break. So let's give you guys a break of 5 minutes and then we can like continue and just complete our application in one go. Right? What add course will do? So basically sometimes what happens कि अगर course का by default anonymous होता है ना तो it doesn't let another browser का URL open in your system by default. तो अगर उस चीज को bypass करना होता है तो you can enable it. Okay. Alright. So yeah guys, let's have a break. By 55 everyone be back. Right? And then we'll continue with this. All right, everyone back, guys. So the next step was to basically show this data that we have received in our UI. Right? यहाँ तक everyone's on same page. How we got the data in show data? Everyone, right? हाँ, ठीक है. The next step was simple. All we have to do was we have to show things on UI. But UI में we tried doing something different. We tried creating ticketing based system. So where we had a low, medium, and high priority stuff. Right? So अभी how do we segregate our data based on this? वो कैसे करें? How do we go about that? Filter. ठीक है, ठीक है. तो think about this. Think about this. First thing first, UI में सोचो कि you have to create 3 separate boxes, right? And this will be present inside this entire box. This entire box is gonna represent this specific function, जो भी वो return कर रहा है, right? And in here you'll just put low. In here you'll just put mid, and in here you'll just put high. Right? So first thing first, we'll need a parent container, and inside it we'll need 3 small different containers. First step तो ये होगा, right? So let's do that. Let's do that. Let's just clear it and let's complete the first step. So basically, we'll need a div over here, right? And this div is gonna contain 3 separate containers. Let's have this as class name just for identification purpose. This will be low. This will be a div with a class name of medium, and this will be a div with class name of take. That's fine. That's fine. UI pay, it's everything is very simple. We have to just show it on UI. The thing is, how can you apply logic over here? Right? This is the data that you're getting. Right? Let me refresh it quickly once again for you. This is the data that we're receiving. And in this data, you have priority, which is different. So can we create something where we can have 3 different data structure that have 3 different stuffs in it? Of course. Can we go for filter over here? Guys, question समझ आ रहा है? What I'm trying to pose here, what the problem statement is? You have 3 different containers. In low, you should only have the priority low, and in high you should only have the priority high data. That's what we want to do, right? So we'll have to create a separate, let's say we'll have a low priority, right? Let's say this is an array. Then we'll have medium priority, right? Let's say this is an array, and let's say we have a high priority. So this is it. We have these 3 separate stuff over it. So can I apply data.filter and do that? Think about this, this data is still an object. Okay. So what I can do over here is I can reassign data the value, right? Or let's say I can create a new data. So I can say let n data equals to object dot entries, and this will be data. Right? So this is going to be a 2D array, right? The n data. It's going to be a 2D array. Yes. So if I do something like this over here, n data dot map, in here I'm gonna get 2 separate stuff, right? अच्छा वो बाद में देखते हैं. पहले again you might have already forgotten about it. So let's say if I do element, right? And over here I'm gonna do console.log of the CL. So let's refresh and let's do this again. Element is not defined. Yeah. So let's refresh it. So this is what we are getting in this console.log element. We are getting first thing as an ID and second thing as the object. So yeah, of course, we can do the object destructuring, right? Or the 2D array that we are getting. So we can say this will be ID and this will be now the element. अब ही जो हमारे पास element आएगा, that's gonna be this thing. Clear? Remember this thing, right? And can we not use filter here for this thing? So let's say कि if I do filter, will that do exact same thing? यही चीज होगा, right? Again, let me refresh it. Exact same thing, right? Guys, how are we printing this? What are we printing over here? Is that clear? Because I had many doubts कि logic building में we are getting problem. So here I'm trying to do something step by step. Please help me with responses. ये clear है कि what we are doing? So now in this variable, we are trying to store all the low priority data. So if I do return element dot low priority, element dot priority equals to low. So will I be filtering out all the elements that are low priority? Yes. Yes. It's capital, so let's do a capital level here, right? So now यहाँ पे जाके if I go and write low priority, if I refresh it again, so are we consoling something else somewhere else? I think app may be there. Let me just remove that console for now. यहाँ पे we're not consoling anything. In show data, we're just consoling priority array, right? No. ठीक, तो लो में we are getting array of 2. So this is there, and then wait, why are we getting array of 2? Okay, maybe it's referring to this thing. Chalo, that's fine. Anyways, our work is being done, right? हमें low priority वाला data मिल रहा है inside this filter. Yes. Similarly, can we apply these filters for medium and high also? Right? So we can do that. Let's just copy this. And this will be replaced over here. This will be replaced over here. The only thing that we have to change is this thing, right? This will be medium and this will be high, right? So everything now has a specific data in it. Let's go and create some more data so that we'll have something to iterate over. So first let's create for low. So let's say work 1 priority, this will be low, and submit it. Let's say we have by pen, and this will be priority low, submit. What else can we have? Kind of medium priority. Drink water, right? Let's keep it as medium priority. Anything else we can attach on medium priority? Assignment नहीं, वो high priority होगा. So let's say do assignment. ठीक, so this will be high, पर फिर mock भी है, so let's keep it as medium, and you will have mock validation 1. So this will have a high priority, right? So ठीक है, we have a different set of data in each particular cases. We can print them all, but before that, let's do one thing. Let's just show them over here, right? तो over here UI कैसे दिखेगा, we can decide it upon थोड़ी देर में. चलो वो decide ही कर लेते हैं. Why wait for it? So we'll have 3 separate divs over here, right? So inside that div we can create three separate divs for each and every task that we are creating to do, right? So over here let's have low priority dot map, right? Again we'll be having that again 2D array. So first thing will be ID, not object destructuring. First thing will be ID, second thing will be the element, right? And over here, while returning, I can create a separate div for it, right? And in that div, first we'll have the title. So let's have that title, and this will be title क्या होगा? It will be element dot title, right? So this will be element dot title, right? So we'll have that titles for 2 work 1 and by pin. Similarly, the same thing, exact same thing will happen over here also, wherein we'll have medium priority over here, and we'll have high priority, right? So this has to be removed. Let's remove this. All right. So we'll have all those things, right? तो सारी चीजें एक साथ है. We'll separate them. Currently, let's just चलो we'll separate them. First thing first, quickly replicate this and let me know if you have any doubts in this. I mean, this is purely simple logic, right? Nothing much that we have done that you guys already don't know about. Whatever we have done so far, that's easy, right? We can send the keys also. So here, while we are mapping, we can send the key as ID, right? Similarly, over here also. So again, guys, quickly, please replicate this. Whatever we've done, you have 5 minutes. Key, this will be ID. I'll zoom this out. Yes, I will. There you go. And let me know if there's anything that you find difficult to understand. I hope everyone's accustomed with this thing that we are doing with Firebase so far. Okay, that's great. Then, guys, all right, take it. So yeah, getting back to where we were at the end. Sure. So we don't need this console for now. Now the next step will be to separate this div in the format that we initially drew, right? So this is something that we can achieve by CSS simply via CSS, right? So let's give these things some class names or anything. So let's say this will be show data, and then you'll have this as its container, and we can have a separate class name for everything that we already have. So let's create a styles, and this will be for show data dot CSS, right? And let's get this particular container that we have, right? So let's get this, and यहाँ से we can start writing the CSS. पर एक काम करते हैं, just to show that CSS directly, let's just import it initially only. ताकि as soon as we start applying CSS, we'll get that. Let's import it. It will be from styles, and inside that we'll have show data dot CSS, or this will also work. But let's write CSS. Chalo. So now inside show data dot CSS, we'll just use this And what's a simple thing wherein you have a container, uske andar you have multiple containers, right? You can just simply write one line and everything will be in like row format. Display flex, we can use flex over here, right? So we can go and write display flex over here, right? Everything will be in its basic format. What we can do over here is we can give it a width that will be 90%, right? 90%, and margin we can keep it as auto, right? But abhi kya karna hai? What I want to do now is I want to give each and every div that are inside it the 30% of it. So how can I divide that? Grid. Okay. But over here we haven't used grid. We have directly used display flex. अच्छा यहाँ पे if I wanted to use show container में could I have used grid only? Okay, you guys wanna go with div width, तो चलो उसके साथ जाते हैं. कंटेनर के अंदर जितने भी divs हैं, I wanna turn their widths into 30%. Take so everything is in that format. Let's do one thing. Let's attach border over here. So let's say 1 pixel solid black, right? Just so we have a reference. Take and everything. Let's give them a margin of 10 pixel overall. चाहे ऊपर हो चाहे नीचे हो, wherever they are, right? This is fine. All right. And inside each particular div, we have another set of divs. Yes. Yes, which has these to dos in it. So we'll have to do show data container के अंदर के divs के अंदर के div, right? And these things we can give them a margin, let's say 10 pixel here in itself, right? And what we can say, they'll have a border of 1 pixel solid black also, right? And let's give this guys padding, so 10 pixel overall, right? So yeah, we have that structure wherein we what we drew in Excalibur at least. In our show data, we can attach the priority also. So we can say P, and this will be P. We can say priority, and this will be element dot priority. Right. Similarly, I'll just copy this and we'll do it everywhere. ठीक. So this looks fine. CSS wise, we can fix it a bit also. Okay, let's do that. Let's do that. So over here, I mean, the CSS only thing that I can see missing is that each of these blocks, right? They can have like a box shadow or something rather than having a border, right? So let's do that. Let's attach box shadow then, and that will be. I mean, I don't exactly remember how we can do like. I remember कि shadow में है क्या, but the different CSS that we have. There's a website, right? Let me check. Box shadow, which gives like multiple option. Yeah, CSS scan. Yeah, this one. So let's say कि we pick this, right? We have copied the box shadow. Let's go back over here and let's put that. Let's see. So this will be here. That looks fine. And for inside boxes, we can have like more this kind of, right? For inside boxes, we can have more of this kind of. So yeah. Okay. So that kind, it doesn't looks that good, no? Let's give this padding. Let's say padding. Let's say top. I need 20 pixel. left, right, I need 25 pixels. So in that case, okay, this can be a bit lighter. It can be a bit lighter. This will do. Mm, okay, and bottom one even, we can rather go with this. Okay, this kind of look much better, right? And for inside boxes, what we can, or let's do one thing. Let's not have any border radius for outside border, right? Let's give it a border only, and that will be like 0.5 pixel solid black, like just thinnest of black that there is. This color we can also change. We can have something like this. Okay. All right, and we can give border radius. So this can give a given border radius of, let's say, 50% running 10 pixel. And here also we can have border radius. This can be of 5 pixel. Alright, okay. So looks much better, but what we might also want to do is, I mean, CSS wise that we can do, let's say if we attach more titles, right? So let's say we are doing evaluation. So in this case, if I attach a priority and if I submit it, that should also be updated over here, right? So how can we manage that change? How can we manage that change? How can we manage that change? Send the function in here. Function of fetching the data. This one. अच्छा एक बात बताओ. If I somehow recall this entire setup, will I be able to update everything? So can I not fill this dependency array with something? Yes. Yes, we can. So what maybe we can do is we can maybe create a flag kind of thing which can check if this data is updated or not. So let's say we'll have a data flag, right? And we can say set data flag, and this will be again use state. It false by default. I mean, the only thing that it has to do is just run this use effect whenever it's changed. And inside show data, inside form data, we can send this data flag. We don't exactly need data flag. We just can send the set data flag, right? Set data flag. Curly braces. Take, and whenever the form is updated, right? The form is being updated. After this, first thing first, I'll have to accept it. So form, was it in form toggle? No, didn't even. Set data flag. Right. So form A will go back over here and we'll do set data flag. We'll accept this, and what we can do whenever we do this change, right? We can just set data flag, change it to whatever the initial value was, right? So we haven't quite sent the flag over here. Let's do that also. Let's send both of them. So data flag equals to data flag, and inside your child form will accept data flag also. So data flag, and we can say that this will be the data flag, right? So abhi what we are doing basically in our app.jsx, we have defined the state, right? Data flag by default it's set it as false. It will be a toggle, and we have given this use effect a dependency of this data flag. So whenever this data flag is being updated, will this use effect be called for that particular moment? जब भी वो data flag update होगा, we'll be calling it. So now inside this form, I have accepted those, and whenever I'm submitting a form, final चीजें हो गई, then I'm doing a set data flag. I'm just updating that set data flag. That means कि we are changing that particular state. That means that use effect is going to be called again. So practically, if I go and attach something else, right? Let's say by okay, right. So in this case, if I attach it by default, it should update our UI directly itself. Clear? So again, slowly, is it getting clear ki why we need that dependency array? Because there's a possibility that we might need to send stuff from here and there. Clear? And by default, उनको update भी करना है. Now, once we start attaching stuff, this thing is gonna get bigger and we won't be able to stay on this page. So can we apply a scroll over here? Again, is it possible to apply scroll on a div? Yes, how? How? Overflow something? Remember, remember, remember. So overflow and we can keep it scroll, right? So now this will be kind of scrollable, right? So let's say we attach one more data. Let's say, what can I add? Let's say to do 4, right? And let's say this is again low priority. So if I submit it, the data will again be added over here, right? The issue is that the overflow is still not working. I mean, of course, height is something that we need, right? So should we define that height? Yeah, of course, we should be defining that height, right? So let's fix the height. What can we do? We can say 70, right? So in this case, we can make it a bit more smaller. Let's say we can say 60, right? Check it. So over here, now we can scroll these tickets slowly. I think we can make it a bit more smaller ताकि it remains on the screen. हमें पूरा screen ही scroll ना करना पड़े. Alright, this is fine, right? So this is what we can do. Clear? Clear? So in your GitHub projects, we have something like this only, right? Where you have a different set of tickets and you move it based on that. So now there's a possibility that I would like to update this ticket and maybe make it medium or high priority. Right? Sounds like a patch request to me. Yes. So yeah, how do we enable update feature in your show data? Again, guys, this code got a bit bigger in this format, right? So yeah, that could happen. So what you could have done is this return statement is again something which just needs this ID and element. So this could have been a separate component of its. So that you could have done, right? वो एक separate component हो जाता खुद का. You don't have to worry about it. Again, if you wanna see, I can like give it a brief. Let's say कि priority container, I call it, right? Priorities.jsx, right? So over here, all I have to do is I mean, just copy this piece of code. So just copy this piece of code. I'll go there in priorities and I'll write a const priority, right? And over here, we can just simply return that specifically. right? With the div and key and all, right? So this will of course need your ID and element. So we can send that ID and element. We can go back in our show data and यहाँ पे now we can just simply remove it, right? Of course हमें उसको call करना पड़ेगा. So let's first export it. Export the priority in show data. I can go and I can import that priority, right? And over here, first thing first, I'll send the ID and then I'll send the element, right? All you have to do is just exact same thing in each tab, right? यहाँ पे भी and यहाँ पे भी. Right? So again, as it was said initially, ki every particular return statement can be a component of its own. So yeah, we have done that. You can like shorten your code by a lot. You just have to write a component over here and you can call it multiple times rather than redundantly writing exact same thing. So that's some kind of flexibility that your React gives. Make sense? Make sense? I hope you can start thinking in terms of components now. Right? And again, if someone asks ki we gave that priority like show data mein, the div that we had, it was given style from the show data. So why is that style still visible on this? I hope that makes sense कि in this show data वो चीजें import हो रही है, right? So at the end, it's still present inside the show data only. It's still a single page application only. Remember? Yeah, so that will be the case. Clear? So yeah, we can separately work on this here itself. Now the thing is that I want to update this priority. User should have option to do that, right? So what I can do, I can have a button over here also, right? I'll have a button over here which will say update priority. Tick. And what will this button do? What will this button do? I mean, we want to update the priority if I click on this button. So this button, let's say if I'm calling a handle click call करता हूँ, right? On click, I'm calling for a handle click, right? So in here we'll need to pass the ID, right, of that specific element. Although ये div ही एक specific element का है, तो we don't exactly need to pass something, right? We can just directly accept that ID क्योंकि वो div ही उसका है, right? So we can have const handle click over here and this handle click. I mean, getting this ki why we don't need to pass the ID. That div entirely is of that specific element only. So if I do console.log ID over here, that will be fine. Right? ठीक है. What should be the next step, guys? Next step क्या होगा? I mean, handle click कर दिया, ID भेज दी. What should be the next step? First thing first, user should get an option of selecting these select tags, right? Pop up or like user should have a change option. तो वो कैसे करेंगे? Toggle alert. No, this time, like we have already done that alert thing. So that you guys already know. This time, what I want to do, once I click on this update button, rather than this update priority, I should have input and वहाँ पे I should have a button which will ask user कि क्या update करना चाहते हैं. Right? Let's do something different from previous time. So in this case, of course, we'll be needing a toggle क्योंकि you know this is conditional rendering. समझ आ रहा है कि why would this be conditional rendering? Yes, yes. So in this case, let's do a toggle and let's do a set toggle, right? And we'll do a use state. And by default, let's take it as by default, let's take it as true. Let's not take it as false. Take it. And over here, what we can do, we can basically put it and let's ask key is toggle true. अगर toggle true है तो will show a button, else will show a small div over here. Will show a small div over here. Right, and what this div will do, ये div में will have a input, right? Input नहीं, let's have that select tag, right? So let's have that select tag, and do we need? अच्छा चलो, let's have a select tag anyways, and this select tag को let's have it over here, and we'll have all the options, right? That we have. तो चलो form से just I'll just quickly copy, waste time. So let's just copy this. वापस आ जाएंगे priorities में, we'll paste this options that we have. Right, so we'll have these options. I mean, I hope you guys watched that prettier wala video that I released yesterday. Watch it, right? If you do watch it, you won't have to do all this ek step from you, right? So make sure you're watching it. Now that if I click on this priority, I should be showing this separate stuff, right? So that I can do by handle clicking. I can do set toggle, and this can be right. तो अभी क्या होगा, for a separate div, if I click on set toggle, I'll toggle it with the priority that I have. Similarly for this also, right? But the another case is that if you visit for another button, initial one should be set it back to its original value. वो कैसे करेंगे? I mean, if you have opened this priority, you should close it. That only makes sense, right? So with this select tag, let's have a button, and this will be update, right? And once this update is clicked, we can say on click handle update click, right? We can have another function const handle update click. ये भी सेम चीज करेगा, set toggle at toggle set back, right? So whatever initial toggle was, right? Update priority, update, and this will be fine. Make sense? Makes sense. You can pick the priority and you can update, right? But again, next thing comes, how will I access this value and how will I update it? Yes. Access कैसे करेंगे guys? On change, okay. So I need that response initially only. क्योंकि if you have a select tag, does it make sense to have a button for it? नहीं. Right? This handle update click could have been attached here only. Can I not add on change in this? Works or not? Tell me. Right? So this function could have been applied over here only. Right? And this button was not needed. Right? And if I go back, if I update the priority, let's say if I click on something, वो by default change जाएगा. You don't have to worry about it. The only thing that is to be worried currently is how can I access this value? तो कैसे access करें? Will I be able to access the event? Have we seen something like that prior? Caps lock on. Yes. So if I do console.log e.target.value, will I be getting the value that we have picked in this option? Everyone? लगता है काम करेगा. Okay, let's see. So we refresh it back. Let's say if I update priority, and in this priority I have set it to medium. Are we getting that medium? Right? So ठीक है, we know that e.target.value is something that we need to update. Right? So now how do we updated. हमें value मिल गई जो हमें update करना है. We'll use Axios again. But is Axios installed over here? यहाँ पे imported है. Let's import it. Axios from Axios. Imported. What should be the next step? Axios.patch. So Axios.patch. ठीक है. Now, inside URL, we'll have to give the specific ID, right? We have to give the specific ID. So first, let me get the URL. Let's get this URL. Let's come in priorities. And yeah, here's the URL. Where should I attach ID in this? ID कहाँ पे attach होगी? Dynamic. Okay, dynamic is fine. How will I attach it? Like, is it like this /ID, or is it like this /ID.json? Which one is it? This one, the current one that we are trying to do. Yes. Okay. So let's pick this URL up. Let's pick this URL. And given that we are gonna make it dynamic, we don't need this. Right? We can just directly put URL over here itself because it's gonna be in literals. So we'll get the URL and we can make this ID dynamic. All right. So now while we're patching it, we'll get the specific ID, right? What do we want to update? What do you want to update? The priority. So what should I write here? Should I write e.target.value only? Should I pick the entire object and write that? What should I do? Again, guys, were you not in the PSC? What should we do? Object. Object. Okay. So element is three case because element is the object. Should I do something like this? Okay. So you guys are saying that we should do element comma something. ठीक है, वो तो last time use किया था. What do you think? Will this work? Let element or element equals to, या फिर let's say if I pick element dot priority equals to e dot target dot value, and then if I share the element, will this work? This works. Last time what we did, we took that object, we first destructured that object, and inside it we printed a priority, right, which had a value of e dot target dot value, something like this. Yes, we did something like this, right? Of course this priority is gonna be in strings, right? But can this not also work? हम object को update करते रहें with whatever value we have, right? So before we do that, now make sure you're doing a quick check key that value is not empty. So if target dot value, matlab if it's not empty, then we are doing it, right? We are doing it, else we'll throw an alert key. You have to pick values from high, medium, or low. Right? So in case they pick priority, they might get an issue. So let's say if I click on update, if I click on priority, if I click on priority again, right? So that should not happen, right? Let's refresh the page. Let's refresh the page. Also put if that in if condition. Which one? The patching. Yeah. Correct. Patching should also be done over here. All right, take it. So now let's see if our system works or not. So if I click on update priority, this 2 is priority low. I want to set it with priority high, right? So that 2 is updated with priority high, but I'm not sure. क्योंकि यहाँ पे uh, we are doing element dot priority equals to target dot value. Is it getting updated in Firebase? I'm not sure about that. So it's simple. We can attach a dot then over here to do that. Dot then, and we can just alert user the update or element data updated successfully. Right, and of course we'll write a cat also. So here error, we can say console.log that specific error. Take it. So let's see if I pick this to do, if I update priority, if I update the priority with medium, in this case we are getting data updated successful, right? And let's say कि हम Firebase में जाके देखते हैं, right? So oh, we'll need to find it. Anyways, it's 2, so this is updated with medium, right? But guys, medium से वो update हो गया, that's fine. Don't you think if it's updated with medium, it should now be in the medium platform? That only makes sense, right? Even though Firebase में it's getting updated, and यहाँ पे again it's getting updated because we are directly doing something like this. This should not be the case. हमें ऐसे नहीं करने चाहिए वैसे तो. So rather than doing this, let's directly do the initial way. Right? This shouldn't be the case. Let's get spread the original, and over here we'll get the priority and give it the value of e dot target dot value. ठीक है, तो this should get updated. Now we have to update the UI also, right? So again, it's simple, right? Now we'll have to, हमने app.jsx में we have done that. In app.jsx we have done this data flag, so we can do the same thing with show data also, right? Basically we'll have to call this use effect again so that the data gets fetched again. Everything starts from initially, right? So we are doing the same thing again. Let's go and show data. In show data, priorities में था वो. And over here, whenever we are doing the change, अच्छा यार मल्टी लेवल प्रॉप ड्रिलिंग आ गया. app.jsx में एक स्टेट है. This app.jsx has a child that is called show data. उसमें वो स्टेट पास कर दिया. उसके बाद this priority is child of the show data again, right? राइट, तो अगर इसमें पास करना है तो पहले आपको स्टेट यहाँ से शो डेटा में भेजना पड़ेगा, देन फ्रॉम शो डेटा विल हैव टू सेंड इट इन प्रायोरिटी. रिमेंबर दिस प्रॉप ड्रिलिंग मल्टी लेवल. ठीक है, तो फर्स्ट थिंग फर्स्ट विल एक्सेप्ट दोस टू थिंग्स इन शो डेटा, राइट? यार आई फॉरगॉट इट रियल क्विक. डेटा फ्लैग एंड सेट डेटा फ्लैग. चलो, so show data में we'll do that. We'll accept data flag and we'll accept set data flag, right? These two things. Now these two have to be sent inside priorities also. Priority में भेजना पड़ेगा, right? So we'll pick our data flag. This will be data flag again, and we'll pick set data flag, and this will be set data flag again, right? ठीक है, तो let's just copy this thing and let's send this in everything. हर जगह भेजते हैं. Right, so now this is one of those cases जहाँ पे हर एक component in a specific lineage is gonna get re-rendered, right? Because this priority has this data, so it's gonna get re-rendered. App.jsx has that, so everything will start re-rendering. देख, अभी we'll visit the priorities. We'll copy these two things. we'll visit priorities, and in priorities, we'll destructure them also, right? And now, whenever data is updated successfully, we want to do a re-render of this stuff, right? So whenever data is updated successfully, we wanna basically set our data flag to the opposite of data flag. Clear? So now let's see if the application works fine or not. Now, let's say we are picking Vite often, right? So if I update it with a priority of high, data is updated successfully, and we'll see that by default, it's been updated in here also. Clear? Similarly, let's say if I pick this and if I change the priority back to medium, now in this case, first, of course, we'll update the alert. It should be over here. Similarly, if I update the priority with low, it should be now in low. Clear? Clear? By drag and drop. थोड़ी देर बाद आएगा अभी. It is a different kind of package that you have to install. Clear? But first step is clear कि how we can do this now. I hope we like kind of compiled whatever we have learned so far in one single application that we have created, right? So from Firebase to Axios, how the dependency array of Axios work, I hope that is now very clear, right? We have done multi-level prop drilling also, so that I hope it makes sense ki how those state management things work, right? But यही जो issue है ना, wherein you just saw कि we have to do multi-layer of that sharing. So think about it कि let's say parents say you have to share around 12 data, and parents से लेके you have a grandchild, so you have like 3 different levels. What I mean by that is, let's say parent is here, and then after that there's one child, then there's one child, then there's one child, and there are like 15 states. You have created the entire application, 15 states है total, वो सारे pass करने हैं. So this gets a bit messy task, don't you think? Right? So this is what we'll try to fix in next lecture. Clear? Any doubt in whatever we have done so far? Is priority of that working? Okay, let's check that out. So let's say if I click on just the priority, I mean, I guess if you keep the values empty, na, that thing by default doesn't get selected, right? Although we can maybe check the code also. So e.target.value, else you have to pick values from low to high. So I mean, okay, let me just console it. Console करके देख लेते हैं if we are getting something or not. So e.target.value. So in console, if I click on priority and just priority, so I guess the first one is by default not getting selected. From high onwards, it's getting selected. Anyways, any other doubts? Right? I hope now you're getting familiar with how the Firebase data, you can deal with it, how you can work around it. There should be no issue with Firebase at least by now. Right? Media queries you can apply from your end, like how it is working and all. Theme B you can apply. Multi-level prop drilling, yes, it's one of the things that it fixes. Yes. Again, tomorrow, again, I'll tell you about what the problems are and how they will be fixed. Don't worry about it. Right? And an example with that we have to discuss once again. I'll check it out ki what was going wrong in it. Sometimes what happens ki when you're in moment, you're not able to solve it, but uske baad it happens. So we'll see that. We'll see that. Don't worry. Any doubts in the application? Nahin? So I'll share this zip file with you, and you can try